open, and she's going to die quiet for 1 second while she connects to live stream or activates live stream. We live? Just get confirmation on that. So while we're getting confirmation on that, I'd just like to welcome everybody to the meeting and welcome any members of the public viewing via live stream. Emma, good afternoon. Nice to see you back here. We've been communicating anyway, but it's nice to also see that we've got a full table here today. So before we move into the meeting, the opening karakia, Councillor Neil is going to read that today. Thanks, Jane.
Kia ora te marinoi, kia whakapapa whananui te moana. Kei hua mahi ma tātou, te rangi nei, awaha atu, awaha mai, tātou, ia tātou katoa. Hui e, pai ki e.
Thank you very much for that. Right, so moving straight through to apologies, we have none. Declarations of interest, as usual, are circulated via Microsoft Teams. If everybody can keep an eye on that and update that when and if necessary. We have no urgent items on the agenda today. So we will move straight through to minutes of meetings. The first ones are the ordinary council meeting minutes of the 14th of December, page 6 to 13 in your agenda. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, so that we can resolve that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 14th December 2023 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting? Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Casson, Councillor Gillette, thank you very much. Everybody in support of that. Sorry, is that hand up for a question?
Yeah, True Worship. Can I just suggest that we look at and since it's ceremonial to separate meeting, as other councils do, because it does take up an awful lot of time in council.
And to be fair with that, I've had other councillors actually comment on it as well. So I guess that's something that we need to check around the table and perhaps put in motion. Whether we add that as a late agenda item or do it.
No, it doesn't have to require it.
No.
So something we can coordinate outside of this.
Okay, so we'll just have a conversation with everybody after this and see what the sentiment is and we'll adjust things accordingly.
Through your worship, can I just, agree with that, but also other things that we sometimes front load the meeting with in terms of updates and community groups and stuff. I think they can drag on more than is possibly intended. They tend to take up a lot of the time and focus and energy that should be used at the start of the meeting, I think, for the most pressing items, and we should find another avenue, either at the table of a meeting or a separate time, to actually have those updates and briefings from different people and organisations in the community as well.
No, fair enough. Fair comment, but also got to appreciate that sometimes this is always been regarded as being the medium for those people to be heard, but what we need to do there is actually manage the time frame that they have to present and a little bit of time for engagement and so forth from there. But we'll take that on board and have a discussion on that going forward, so everybody's happy to do it that way.
Just through your worship, the critical factor here is if anything requires a resolution of council, it has to go through a formal process. And otherwise it can be a briefing to council in other form.
Okay, so if we can get just back to the council meeting minutes, we've had a mover and a seconder to that, and I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed council meeting minutes of 14th December. And we have no minutes to be received from standing committees. And officially we take those points on board. Di's got those things noted, so we will communicate with councillors accordingly as managing those going forward. So next on the list is the action list, and we ask Chief Executive Simon to come forward and speak on the 3 points that are recorded in your agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon, councillors, for the first council meeting of the year. Just to highlight, there are only 2 actions outstanding. The first one is obviously continuing on the conversations around this council building and Pākehā Waitara building. An update on that, so we're about to issue a contract for the geotech work. That's being undertaken in the near future. The other aspect was we have finished a review on this building in terms of its healthy building status. It shows some elevated levels and some spores, etc., and also CO2 levels. It's not outside of critical, so we are obviously talking through that with the executive team, and we'll be presenting that back to staff in the very near future. The second point is completed, and there was a list of costs to date for the consultancy for the racecourse development that was supplied last meeting. Happy to take any questions on either of those.
Through with it, Simon, the completion date, target date for item 1 is March 23, but we've reset that for an appropriate target.
It has been taking a while. Obviously, the workshop earlier on in the week highlighted a direction of travel for the LTP. But obviously, the LTP will be a decision-making process for council to proceed with proper decision on terms of upgrade or not.
Is July 24 not a more appropriate target date?
It was the original target date, and we can actually adjust that accordingly now based on the information.
Yes.
Through your worship, regarding Waitara building, will this work include a peer review of the WSP earthquake report? Gave the building 27%.
So for this building, or you mean for the Waitara building? We do need to get, if we're going to do anything with that building, obviously design standards and design drawings done for it. We need to use a basis to do those design drawings. I haven't consulted with my team in terms of getting another review done on that building. We have talked about, we do need to do one for this building, obviously, if we're going to proceed with upgrading, with great strengthening, which will include design drawings for a contractor to work from. I haven't logged any design reviews for Waitara at this stage. So in current status is purely to keep it weathertight and minor maintenance work.
Given that we're looking at the possibility of using that for temporary staff accommodation, then I would suggest that with a seismic report that looks at a risk of 27% of building standard, that should be a priority to have that peer review.
I'll take it on board.
Through your worship, just on the topic of consultants fees, how much have we paid to PwC so far for the CCO review?
It's not under this section, man.
CCO review, but no, it's better off to be served at the time. We can keep focus on the 3 points in this report, please.
Okay.
Any further questions for Simon on the action list? Right, so if I can have a move and a second, please resolve that the updated action list from Chief Executive be received. Thank you, Councillor Phelps. Councillor Beard, thank you very much. All in favour of accepting the action list report?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Thanks, Simon. So from there, we'll move straight on to the staff reports, and the first one of those is the Chief Executive's quarterly report. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Worship. I have with me today, and at the end of the presentation from my report, I'll ask Charlotte to give an update on West Task Force for Jobs in terms. So there's a section in my report referring to it, and I'd like to give Charlotte the opportunity to give Council a full update in terms of the work that has been done today. But just running through the report, I'll take it as read, but there's quite a lot in this report that I hope you have soaked up. Obviously, one of the biggest focus points now is the outcome of government's 100-day plan. The biggest issue in here, or the biggest concern, is around 3 waters, where the 3 waters program is going to be landing. In regards to including Three Waters in our long-term plan, we have made a call on keeping, or we have to put it back into the long-term plan. The fact that our asset management plan to the National Transition Unit is pretty well replicated in our long-term plan anyway. So we haven't changed any projects that we would continue with or not continue with. So that is quite an easy input into our long-term plan. They did offer an extension of 3 months due to the fact that some councils won't have included Three Waters in their long-term plans. We don't see the need for that, so we're going to continue on the trajectory path of 30th of June getting our LTP document completed. The extending by 3 months creates more complications and creates also an audit program that is compounding on the other side of it. So we believe we've still got capacity to do that. We just going back to what is National likely to do with this. They have indicated through their water policy that there could be some sort of centralised unit for delivery of Three Waters. How that framed up, we have no idea at this stage. I understand that Communities for Local Democracy have been working alongside the National Party in terms of some models. The critical factor here is that we still link ourselves and have the open conversation, at least at the staff level, with our Canterbury colleagues to understand where their plan of attack is as well. So Scott and I have been invited to join conversations in Canterbury about how they're progressing. We haven't done that since the announcement of the Minister. As you can see, Hokotoko particular wastewater treatment plant. Still a lot of work going on in the background here in terms of assessing the final level options. We're hoping to get back in front of the subcommittee in the very near future to give an update to the subcommittee on progress. In terms of where we are with budgets, we've gone for worst case scenario currently in the long-term plan, because by the time we get to the long-term plan, we won't have a final decision in terms of a direction of travel. Glad to see that Fox water treatment plant is up and running and commissioned, and been commissioning very, very well and running according to specifications. So thanks for the patience, for the community and for councillors in delivering that. It is a good facility and quite a significant investment. You'll see a note there for Kamara Water Reservoir. The existing water reservoir is very, very old. It has got leaks. So we've put a temporary funding system in to supply water whilst we evaluate the existing reservoir, whether we need to patch it, replace it, put a skin inside it, or decommission it altogether. There may be a need just to keep those tanks that have been put in place for resilience, just in case there is an issue with the reservoir. But at the moment, it's just a temporary setup. You'll note also that Harps and Franz Joseph generators have been installed and commissioned. Keep those, particularly in a resilience capacity, keep those plants running during adversity. A bit of an update on Waihao River. Obviously, we met late last year with the community in terms of a direction of travel based on a technical advisory group report, which basically indicated that releasing to the south side would be the best outcome. At that time, there was some flow going into the Tautari River. It's fair to say that the weather event last week has seen that flow increase. So we're working alongside our regional colleagues to find exactly what the next steps are for that situation. One point for council to acknowledge is we do have an asset beside the river, which is our wastewater treatment plant. Whilst at the moment it's not compromised, we just want to make sure that we can continue to operate without the fear of it being inundated. Just to highlight too, there was an event pre-Christmas, which is the 10-year anniversary for the Wilderness Trail, which is attended by a few dignitaries. It was also the official opening of the Mahanapil viewing platform at the same time. This also is the special purpose road. Obviously, that was completed in the last quarter. Great work from our team and with our Bola colleagues getting that locked in as the next 3 years of 100% funding. We're taking the position that's going to be the same for eternity in our LTP. At 100% funding, so we'll fight tooth and nail to maintain that going forward. Hokitika Swimming Pool, we had a meeting last week in terms of an update. Everything's progressing to the timeline that we said pre-Christmas. So it expected an opening early in April. The fit out of the changing rooms, all the main infrastructure has gone in. The fit out of the changing rooms is currently underway, and some landscaping and parks are underway as well. You'll see CAS toilets have been completed, and you'll also note that the CAS playground will be kicking off next week in terms of installation. So once again, thanks to the team for getting that fast track to get that underway. We will be isolating the existing playground as of next week and looking what we do with the equipment that comes from there. But unfortunately, we had some incident pre-Christmas about vandalisation of our CAS toilets, which is an ongoing issue with some of our assets. There's a report in confidential regarding where we're at with the racecourse development. Ross Swimming Pool, obviously opened pre-Christmas of the temporary fix, which buys us a couple of years of work. And obviously we'll look to do with council in terms of what does that look like after the next 2 years. Planning and building consents are on the rise. A lot of activity, and then we can see that continuing to grow, which is really positive news. A lot of strain on the team, obviously delivering, but we're working through that and obviously been quite efficient in terms of meeting our requirements and standards as well. Just following on, there's a report as well regarding the museum. So the internal fit out has been this sort of internal fit out workshop we had pre-Christmas with council. We'll bring that back to council for resolution. The library team have provided a very comprehensive update, so I hope that takes some time to read it. But obviously a very good update on the terms of their survey. Very complimentary on the asset and the delivery that our council is doing in the library space. We also see the amount of activities that has been run in there and the amount of volunteers. I didn't realise actually myself that there's so many volunteers in it. 32 volunteers, contributing to 20 hours a week supporting the library staff. Scrolling down. Obviously, new staff that arrived to council. We have Dave Lowe, our new project manager for operations. Chris Weblix has come back to council from a short spell in the fire area. Alicia has joined us as asset strategy and development manager. And we also have a new Shureth Vissa has joined us as a building control administration officer. Now, I would like to pass over to Charlotte, if it's okay, to take you through the Task Force for Jobs presentation, and then I'll come back and take questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlotte Bradley Kenny, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm not sure there's many that don't. I'm the coordinator for the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs here in Westland. I'm just going to take you through a short, a brief overview about, a brief overview of what the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs is. So it's a nationwide program offered through the Ministry of Social Development funding. We reach from Taramako down to Haast, and that supports 16 to 24-year-olds, those at risk in the labour market, and employers and whānau. We also hold youth employability programs, which I'm sure you already know about, biannual careers expos, training, study nights, and other community events such as the Solar Tsunami Showcase that we have on at the moment over the road. Since 2020, we have invested $1.975 million into the Westland District, supporting a total of 294 employment opportunities. So this financial year we were offered less funding nationwide, but our local target is 38 sustainable employment outcomes of 30 hours or more per week in the job. So in the last 6 months, we have achieved 35 outcomes, 24 of which are sustainable, and 11 people haven't quite hit that 3-month mark of employment just yet. So they're not counted as sustainable by MSD just yet. We are, however, confident that we will again exceed the expected outcomes of this yearly target. Nationally, the program has reached an average of 38% sustainable outcomes, so we're pretty stoked that we're sitting at 63% locally. We're supporting around 30 other job seekers, and we have a total of 2.4 FTE employed to deliver the program here in Westland. So to give you an idea of what that looks like from a social service point of view, other social service agencies in this town and around our district are supporting around 8 people per worker, per social service deliverer, and Pascal, between the two of us, have about 65. So it's a pretty demanding job. So a little bit about the demographics and social themes that we're encountering. The top 3 ethnicities that we are supporting in terms of numbers are Māori, Pākehā and Pacific Islanders. The top 3 industries, again not surprising, are hospitality, construction and agriculture. And the purchases that we find ourselves supporting the most tend to be driver licensing, work attire and tools. So common themes that with our young people tend to be low level literacy and numeracy in the Westland area, fear of failure to the point where young people are too worried about even starting something out of the fear of failure, and screen addiction. So while many of us may dismiss this, platforms like social media, Snapchat, Instagram leverage the very same neural security as slot machines and cocaine, keeping us using their products as much as possible. So this leads to all sorts of social issues, and that includes social anxiety, concentration, dopamine interference, and not to mention annoying the boss. It's kind of hard for us to understand that, I guess. Yeah. So another huge issue that we're noting is the lack of connection. This is often found in those who have come from transient families or those individuals that don't have familial connection to Westland. So this is huge for our youth in Westland and South Westland, as it's a lot easier to get your foot in the door when your grandfather can tap somebody on the shoulder or your sister can get you an after-school job somewhere. So what does work? I'm almost finished, don't worry. Not all youth in our program are disengaged. In fact, most of our youth are really keen to explore the world of work. Some just require just a little bit of assistance. Sorry. We've come across some excellent young people, so who are willing to try anything, and employers who are supportive and willing to give youth a voice and give them a go based on their own experiences. The MTFJ Hub across the road, the 10-week youth employability program, also across the road has been a game changer, and the drop-in service, albeit giving us a little bit more work, has been really valuable as well. The flexibility of our fund ensures that we can operate at an individualised level rather than a one-size-fits-all level, and gives us the freedom to implement community-led solutions for local people. So that's all from me right now. I am just going to do a little bit of a plug for when it comes on, the tsunami, the Solar Tsunami Showcase on over the road at the moment. Thank you.
Before I take questions on my report, is there any questions for Charlotte?
This is fun, thank you. That was really interesting. Low levels of literacy and numeracy.
Yeah.
Most of those, coming through schools, local schools, or West Coast schools.
Yes. And I might sort of get into the education side of things because it's huge. It's quite huge, but just coming through and being able to get their literacy credits, not necessarily through English classes, for example, seems to be something that's a bit of a challenge. So when they are going into the apprenticeships, going, oh, well, I'm just going to get an apprenticeship and use my hands, it's often not seen that you have to do a writing and reading component with those apprenticeships. So that's where we're finding that people are struggling.
So regarding these task force for jobs, and from what Charlotte's touched on today, are you all familiar with actually what work these ladies do? Because the lives they touch and help is just exceptional. We just can't describe the impact they have on the youth that we have. Yeah, so, you know, do go over and talk to them because it is interesting. The hours that they are remunerated for versus the hours they actually do is a massive gap. And the fact that we've got a funding shortfall this year to what we had previously is a concern going forward, because for Westland, these task force for jobs play a massive role in our community and the betterment for our youth. So it's something that collectively I'd like to see us advocating for. It's all well and good the mayor's coming together and advocating for them, but if we have the councils behind us as far as understanding the impacts, benefits and everything else, it makes the battle a lot easier when we're out there campaigning.
Just a quick question. Most of your customers, for want of a better word, do they tend to be school leavers or just out of school, or are they sort of long-term needs, for want of a better expression?
It's a mixed bag. So a lot of our kids obviously have left school because they need, not education, employment or training. So they will come to us after they've left school, or they might have lost a job that they thought was going to be something that hasn't quite turned out the way it is. But we also have parents coming to us a lot now, more so than we did before. And I think that's a direct outcome of having that walk-in space over there. So yeah, it is very much a mixed bag, including employers contact us to say they've taken on a young person. Yeah.
Charlotte, you are very proactive in your job as well. Like I know Charlotte approached us a few years ago regarding employing someone for school. So Charlotte, you do a good job.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice feedback. Thank you. Excellent.
Well, thanks, Charlotte. Thank you very much for that. All right, questions for Simon, please, on his report, quarterly report. Any questions? Any clarifications seeked? Yes, Councillor Davidson.
3.14, the Hukatika Beachfront access ramp.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable about proceeding with that ramp at this stage. Over the past 2 years, I've taken several images and videos of the sea coming in and hitting that point. And you know, I acknowledge that we need access down to the beach, but I think that we just should wait and to see if that site becomes suitable for that access. That's my view.
Just for councillors, we have gone out and tendered for this work, so we are planning to bring that back to council in February for consideration for the tender. If it's a consensus of council not to proceed, we can do it during that report if that's council's decision, which will have more information for councillors to make an assessment.
I support Councillor Davis on that. I mean, this is a really dynamic part of the beach, and it makes sense to wait for it to see how it settles. And it seems right in there before, and I'm not sure that this is quite as extensive as it is design. We need access onto a good access onto the beach, but it doesn't need to be anything more than a simple walkway onto the beach, in my view. So I suggest a title on that, tenders. The secondary question, or the question regarding this is, you're asking him about the disputed $90,000 with the Regional Council. Where do we stand with that?
We have discounted recovering that. At the end of the day, the last CE of recovery and the council has made it clear that there was no funding coming through. That invoice has been reversed, I understand.
So there's an extra cost in the rate case, an extra 90,000.
Bear in mind that we reapplied for an extension through the TIP funding to recover additional costs, which we were successful on. But inflation since then probably is going to make that null and void in considering it's been quite some time now. Just to highlight to councillors, we've already purchased some items, as you can see them on the beachfront in terms of building the access way. Also the resource consent and a building consent to proceed with that. So there'll be money that has already been invested. We could repurpose the blocks in another capacity, so we'll have to find out what capacity that could be, but there's multiple uses for it. But we don't have a project that we can say, let's move it here instead. Just to highlight, there will be some funds into this project if we don't proceed.
We please don't put them down as Sunset Point.
Just some other matters. In New Zealand, I thought after our workshop, I thought that we were heading in the right direction finally with the museum after we went off course a little bit, redesign of what was going to go into it. And then, to my horror, I read that the Goldtrees has been moved up the hill to the Industrial Heritage Park, along with the stagecoach. Stagecoach I can understand, but the dredge is like, I mean, that was always regarded as like the coup de grace of the museum, but this was been a highlight of the Hokitika Museum for generations since it opened. And I think it's a mistake to move that out of the museum. Okay, that it's to say that, well, the Industrial Heritage Park is also a museum, but we also risk splitting the museum collection over two sites. And the Hokitika Museum should be the premium museum in town. And the Goldtrees is very much a part of that and always has been. I think that that's a mistake. I really think it should be reviewed. Secondly, the moving the archive material from the back building of Drummond into Drummond Hall. While that makes sense because that back building is slumped and leaks and it's got all sorts of problems with it, by moving that into Drummond Hall, then I gather that means we're going to lose about a third of the floor space of the museum. In other words, we'll be restricted to just the Carnegie building. Is that the case?
I would have to go back and confirm exactly the location, etc.
In terms of that first phase, is correct. The initial focus is on the Carnegie building and displays of there. As previously discussed with previous councils, in terms of Drummond Hall, it is not fit for purpose for collection, display, archives or otherwise. And there was money in the budget in terms of developing a new archives repository as well, was where it was going to be beside the museum right at the airport. So it's about addressing that space and then how the Drummond Hall space would be used going forward. But the initial part of the project is purely on galleries 1 to 5 and getting that open to the public. And then in terms of council and what we can afford going forward in terms of utilising Drummond Hall as well. But yeah, the main priority, as we all know from how busy the tourist season has been, it's painful the fact that we've got such a fine building that's not open to the public yet, and that is our focus, to try and get those museum historical exhibits open in the Carnegie so we have something to offer as we progress the development of the rest of the footprint on that museum land, because there are things we can do, but it's in terms of what we can afford to going forward and what the priorities, and the priority is the Carnegie building and those galleries.
So to distill that, we are shrinking the museum by 30.
This talks about moving to the front room of Drummond Hall, not relocating into Carnegie building.
No, what has happened in the past is you've got McAndrews, is it? The square, that's had display. And then there was the hallway from Carnegie through into the covered way and part of the Drummond Hall, where there's currently a lot of collections stored that had display area as well. But at the moment, our collections have expanded that much, hence the desire to move some things out as well and make room. But as we say, nothing is down on concrete until the displays and everything have been determined. But the focus is primarily on galleries 1 to 5 and Carnegie be at this stage.
So through your worship, I hope that means that the moving the Meccano dredge isn't in concrete either.
No, obviously that'll be up for discussion. In terms of,
Like, I mean, it says that the cranes come in April.
take it as an action, your worship, in terms of reviewing that.
Okay. The, right, okay. Because Drummond Hall, of course, at the moment houses the Meccano dredge and the old audiovisual theatre and stagecoach, etc. So if that all becomes archive, which, and I do support moving the archive from where it is because I don't think it's adequate, but it is obviously going to affect the integrity of the museum as an exhibition space. There won't be anywhere near as much room. Just question another couple of things.
Yes.
In this report. Firstly, going backwards, the Three Waters favourite topic. But the approach from Canterbury for councils on the West Coast to work with them going forward. Where's the value in that, given that this was one of the major bugbears with that whole Three Waters debacle? And the government, what the government was, although they haven't finalised just what shape it's going to take, they have very much indicated that their focus is on restoring local control. So I don't see where us collaborating with Canterbury has much value.
It's more information sharing than collaborating. We're not getting into any proposed deals or agreements. It's purely around us sharing information and identifying the direction of travel and potentially leveraging the larger resources they have to do any reviews that they probably can't afford to do as a small communities.
On the Three Waters was the chlorination, and I see that the mention of Haast is project now completed with the last supply Haast having the chlorination implemented at the end of October. So was there no, I mean, we're all aware of the allergic reaction at Haast to chlorination of their supply. Was there no way that there could be an exception?
There has been no exceptions in New Zealand to date. Many have applied, even Christchurch City, and have been declined. To go through an exception process is quite an onerous and significant cost, and also to provide an alternate type of treatment would be very expensive as well.
We weren't meeting our obligations as far as regulation requirements go.
There's no guarantee that we would succeed even spending a lot of money trying to get an exception in place.
Oh yes, I understand that was a government decree, like many others from the previous 3 years. But okay, I just thought there might have been an escape route.
We have looked at it in various guises. A lot of small communities are in the same position as us. You know, obviously the water in terms of West Coast is quite premium compared to a lot of other catchments. But even so, there's a clear requirement within the Act in terms of disinfectant at point of use, some sort of disinfectant.
In addition to obviously, taste changes and that sort of stuff, flavour of the water, once it's set up, is there much of an ongoing increase or impossible cost on us to provide that chlorination as well?
Definitely.
Okay.
And that's already in our future operating costs. We're currently absorbing that now in the current budget.
Is it something that LGNZ could be asked to look at, given that there are lots of communities around the country that are protesting the same thing?
There's not so much lots and they're not so much protesting, they're asking questions on it. Because overall, the dominant number of communities have accepted the requirements.
That
And there is no,
accepted.
the fact that it's a requirement, Jane, regulatory requirement, and there is no alternative measure to put in place to meet the requirements that are there. So it's a big problem. The LGNZ can certainly, we can have a discussion with them, but it's certainly not going to create a resolution to that problem.
So this was definitely raised through submission processes when it became legislation, so that's why and LGNZ on behalf of a lot of small councils did put a submission in on that. But obviously that act went through as it.
There's no signs of the water regulator slowing down. So the way that this was structured was there were only a certain number of outcomes that you could come to, even though they suggested you had a choice. The reality was you didn't. And the costs of applying for an exemption, something like $30,000. And so
Just to apply.
Just to apply. And so far, everyone has been rejected. And what they do is they say to you, well, if you do want an exemption from this, you show how you can deliver this and still meet the water standards. And the reality is, for us, it's very difficult. So it's one of those you've got a choice if you don't really.
Through your worship, Simon, Appendix 1, page 40, better off funding stuff. One comment, one question. Firstly, comment, good to see all completed projects coming in under budget, which is good. One that's live currently is over $100,000 over budget, civil defence, community resilience. There's no mention there as to where that $100,000 is being funded from. Can we get some clarity on that, please? It's on page 40.
Of the appendix.
Of the agenda.
Is it the 190?
Starlinks, radios, rapid deployment, communication kits, civil defence, community resilience, budget 65, cost of date 168.
Sorry, that's actually a part where the budget allocation is 200,000. So we're sitting under budget currently.
Great, good result. Thank you for the clarification.
Just to highlight through your worship, better off funding, there are a number of projects that are completed. Just to highlight that if there is a fund left over, unders and overs, in the near future, we'll come back to council with, to reallocate potentially some of that funding if the agency allows us to do so. We have been successful in the past, as you recall, reallocating some of that funding. So as projects wind up, any budget left over can come back into a centralised pool as long as they're used in the same portfolio of activity.
Great. I'll refer back to point 1 then. That's great that all projects are currently trending under budget and all completed ones are under budget. Good job from the team involved in those projects.
I've got a question regarding the 4.2 regulatory planning and community services, the building report. I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, the report is great. It's showing 100% processing and everything else in there, and it makes it look really good, but it doesn't capture the issues that we are having out there and the concern that's out there in the developing market and just in the average Joe blogs doing things and coming across issues. And as Councillor Verdon, Casson and myself experience almost daily, there are certainly issues out there. That
I'll add my hand to that.
it's the time frame involved with dealing with those, working through them, and if we're at fault, accepting that fault and mediating that with those parties. That's the area that concerns me significantly, because that's the area that has a significant impact on our reputation. And out of everything this council is doing, it's the one area that we have a significant issue within, and it's not going away. So as much as it's nice to have the rosy stuff in the reports, I think we've got to be really realistic here and face where the issues are, and that we have got issues out there, and then what we're going to be doing to mitigate those issues going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and I acknowledge that. Just to highlight, notice to fix 18, that's quite a high number in terms of a lot of activity that's non-compliant to the building code, which is either been notified for or been picked up.
I'm not so much talking about the notice to fix in the building or the fitness things. I'm talking about the average person trying to get a consent through and the issues that are coming with that, whether it's actually it being developed through having to go through consultants offshore or whatever. But there's some really serious issues out there that aren't captured on here on the table. They're nothing to do with notice to fix or anything else. It's more the consenting process and the problems that we've got there that are costing people significantly every day, that something's not progressing for them. The financial cost on them, let alone the mental anguish that they go through, is significant. And we're going to start losing some serious investment in the region if we don't sharpen our act up there. And that's really concerning. Sorry, yes.
Yes, Your Worship, so you've hit the nail on the head with that, and there is absolutely deep-seated concerns out there, roadblocks that are going away. And whether it's perception, whether, you know, or rightly or wrongly, it does need to be addressed, because it's certainly not improving. I would also suggest that we perhaps need to have a look at a forum for disputes. One example is a developer that you are aware of, and he's been in dispute with the council building department over a subdivision, and he's now blocked from contacting the council, and he's not able to email, to phone, and has had a lawyer's letter.
Just a point of clarification, he is not blocked from contacting council.
Not anyone that I saw that showed us.
Still has access to council.
All I'm saying is, and I'm not taking sides on it, but there, in my view, there should be a forum for hearing of disputes where they should be a developer. If they feel they're not getting a fair suck of the salve, then they should be able to air that concern in front of the council, which used to be, I believe, with the regulatory committee that we got rid of. Had that forum, but we now don't have that.
I was on council when that was in place, yes.
Or quarterly or biennial or something like that.
So, it's just a forum, we don't no longer have that avenue. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, I guess the flip side of that is either some sort of forum for managing that, or we recreate the planning, regulatory and planning committee that we originally had to work on getting sort of things improved and overseeing some processes being put in place to mitigate the issues that are there. Paul, your references on one person in particular, and there's certainly a very, and certainly a very significant other side to that story, because I've been on that, following that through very closely, but there's a lot of others out there, and they're not just developers. So it is an area that, although the report is really good, I think it's important as council that we face reality and that there are issues, we acknowledge them, and it's what are we going to do to mitigate those going forward.
And just add to that, at least this sort of be portrayed or interpreted as just for builders or for developers. You've got people at risk of losing finance, but you've actually got waiting for their houses to get built, not knowing whether their parents are going to be able to inhabit the same section of them, because they don't know if they can get granny flat put out the back or not. There's just a lot of unnecessary imposition of stress, loss of peace of mind, and financial cost as well, both producers and customers. So.
Is the best start for 10 looking to reset up the planning regulatory committee?
Sorry, is what?
Is the best start for 10 the re-establishment of the planning regulatory committee?
It's certainly something that I feel very strongly about and certainly support getting that back in place. What the sentiment is around the table, I'd like to know. I know it's something that wasn't, something that council was necessarily wanting to see, because we were hoping that things could work through without that. But I know personally from being involved with it when it was previously in place, it worked exceptionally well. We didn't overstep the realms of governance to operational. It helped to sort out the direction and ensure that that the direction was very clear I think we even put some structure in as far as policy or strategy going forward. So,
Well, it's just an exchange, it's just creating a dialogue really, and if anyone comes along and they are unpleasant or impolite, that's very simple, they just don't get invited back. We want to have a respectful dialogue between people. Anyone that comes along and tries to say the history and this isn't coming in, that's a pretty straightforward process.
talking about the public sector as far as.
Yeah, in terms of people that, No, I mean, in terms of if you've got any hostile developers or people like that.
Look, you always get that because if they don't get what they want, and there's always two
Yeah.
sides to a story, and quite often it's the fact that they have not forward thought or haven't engaged the right people to do the job for them because they're not necessarily equipped to do it themselves. And you can't, you've got to acknowledge what the issues are out there. But there are certainly issues out there that can be managed in a different way, perhaps a potentially better way.
There's also times when people that employ qualified engineers and landscape architects and very PhD experts and also not managed to things are in a timely fashion.
Does it make a difference? Like, did it change any outcome from that committee, or was it just a talk piece?
No, it wasn't a talk piece, no, but it was a different circumstance too because I was asked to sort of entrench in that department to try and work through and assist from the business sector. So I stepped out of the council and more a mentoring aspect of it.
Because like you said, at the end of the day, it's the staff member that makes the call.
Yeah, it is. It's the direction that's given on how we want to see this run going forward. But we've got to be enablers, not put roadblocks there. Okay.
Bear in mind, committees, reports for committee require probably written for resolution, otherwise it's just a briefing paper. So, and also to point out, resource consents, etc., are private information until it becomes lodged in public. So any disputes, etc., wouldn't be in a public domain, it would be confidential. And also they will protect the staff in that situation as well.
What I did see formally in Francois when it was established too was that we were having very intensive reports coming to council, but at the end of the day, a lot of the councillors didn't comprehend what they were actually reading to because they weren't entrenched and they're not planners. So, and it's one thing I hate is seeing a lot of effort and time go into the creation of plans when all it is a lot of words that are just covering a base. So in that respect, no, it wasn't successful. It's not actually, it's not achieving what you're trying to achieve at the base. So it's perhaps a discussion we can have going forward with Simon and any other department that's required going forward to how we structure what we do and how we manage this going forward. But I think the sentiment around the table is pretty much an agreement that we need to do something. I can turn a blind eye, but yeah. So are there any further questions for Simon on the report?
Yes, through your worship, Simon 312, Casquet Playground redevelopment. Is there now a total budget of $1.1 million? My understanding was it was 510 from council, 510 from lotteries, and that in my calculation is now 1.1 million?
Yes.
1.02 million?
Correct.
So that's a typo, is it?
It is 1.02.
We'll make this the last one so we can keep to some form of time.
The Wi-Fi flat and the comments about solidarity with the people of the Wi-Fi flat, which we understand, of course. However, I would think that this council also should have some solidarity with the position that was taken at the years and chairs of the 10-year strategy, because it does need to have support, and including from this council. And so if in the future this 10-year strategy is accepted, and if the government smiles upon us with compensation that's needed, then the model that's been used elsewhere in North Island, of course, is 50-50, 50% funding from local and from the government, so that comes straight back to this table. So I think that the solidarity ought to be more sensible to just say that the Waihaflet predicament, which we fully understand.
For one thing, it's compensations a bit different to what we are looking at. And as far as Friends Joseph goes, we are looking at a total project. It's not just about the Waiho River. It's a bigger picture than that. And the pitch to the government won't be along the lines of the Lord Waiho because we haven't had that event. We're going to be looking at future-based Friends Joseph and how we create resilience around that region going forward. And how what that will look like. So it's an ever-evolving situation and program of planning because the river now has changed from what it was after last weekend's event. The pressure on different areas, so it's a full package. It's not just the south side or just the river, but yeah, it's changing all the time. But yes, understood.
Through I do understand that. The sewage ponds are only one floodway from the river. Now that the river is swung to the north and is flowing down very close to that and into the Tartary. So yes, all of that has to be taken into account. But and the regional council, of course, say that they have 75% agreement from the south side and the Waihaflet ratepayers for the 10-year strategy is, of course, predicated on the government and the councils coming forward with a compo package. So it's all very much in there. I mean, the whole Friends is an awful tariwhao situation from the Alpine fault to the river to everything else, and it all has to be planned in advance. All I'm saying is, we should be standing with the regional council to have a united front.
No, thank you for that, Paul. Is there any further questions for Simon, please? No. Can I please have a vote of second resolve that the quarterly report from the Chief Executive dated 25th January 2024, including an update from the Western Workforce Coordinator, be received? Thank you, Councillor Burton. Councillor Davidson. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Simon. Cody, the financial performance report, please, for 31st December 2023.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. For Your Worship, I present the financial report for 2023. Before if you ask any questions, can I just direct your attention to page 60? Right at the bottom of page 60, and the other expenses note, unbudgeted consultancy fees related to the HQ appraisal, $92,000. That's actually capital expenditure. It's not operational expenditure, so that will be moved to capital expenditure in January. So it'd be good to just note that under page 59 of the Statement of Comprehensive Revenue and Expenditure, other operational expenditure is $92,000 less than what's actually shown there. Other than that, I'll take the report as read, and through Your Worship, I'll take any questions.
Questions for Cody, please.
Page 60 managed to answer 3 of mine, so none from Cody.
Yeah, I must admit, when you go through the report, that sheet quantifying things is really good. Because it's invariably you have questions and then you get to that and it resolves them, so thank you for that. Any further questions for, any questions for Cody? Any clarification needed? No? Thank you, Cody, great report, and in fact there's no questions. Can I have a move and a second to please resolve that the financial performance report dated 31st December 2003 be received? Move Councillor Casson. Do I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Neal, thank you very much. Thanks, Cody, very much. Well done. Thank you for that. Next report we have is the performance and measures for long-term plan 2024 through to 2034 from Emma, our Strategy and Communications Advisor. Welcome, Emma, to the meeting.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. I would like to take the report as read, but I would like to just highlight something within the report around the Three Waters measures. Excuse me, my note here. With the change in legislation to revert back to the current LGA around Three Waters, we've made the assumption at this point in time that the measures for Three Waters activity won't change. However, the measures under the LGA that have been set that are mandatory are different from the measures that are reported to the water regulator. So we believe that potentially there may be a change within those measures prior to the final plan being adopted. And so just to make you aware of that. And the other thing that I would like to bring attention to is after submitting this report, the Animal Control Activity have requested an amendment to the proposed measure that currently reads 99% of known dogs registered by 30 June each year. They've requested to amend that to 100% of known dogs registered or infringed for failure to register by 1st of September each year. And they would like to make this change to reflect the legislative timeframe for registering dogs. And because infringements have been included as they measure the appropriate action has been taken to ensure that people are registered, or people's dogs are registered by the 1st of September each year. So those were the only notes that I wanted to highlight. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Emma, please?
More an observation and good around the dog control or animal control when you brought up now, Emma. Good to see more council departments moving to the goal of 100% and their goal setting as opposed to less aspirational goals. So it's been good to see a number of those change since our original conversations there.
Right, anything further for Emma, please? Right, so this moving, seeking and resolving will have another component added to it, and that will be the amendment to the content. So the amendment is under measures for how do we measure success. We're talking about the dog control today, so I cannot move that around. So under measures, it's being changed to 100% of known dogs registered or infringed for failure to register by 1st September each year, XTC. And performance targets for 24 through to 2034, instead of 99%, it's 100%. So that'll be, thanks Emma. So that'll be the amendment to that paper. So is everybody in support of that? Down the table? Yep. Yep, thank you. All right, so can I have a mover and seconder please resolve that the report be received, including that amendment, and that the council adopt the performance measures outlined in Appendix 1 to the report for inclusion in the draft of the long-term plan for 2024 through to 2034. Can I have a mover and seconder please? Councillor Burton, thank you very much. Councillor Gillett, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks Emma, thank you very much. Thank you, Guy. And moving on, we're now at administrative resolutions, the warrants of appointment.
So, Your Worship, we have two to be appointed. David Lowe, Warrant Enforcement Officer for the Planning Department, and Yolanda Kunitz, Warrant Appointment for Alcohol Liquor Licensing Inspector.
Right. Yeah. So can we move to a second, please, resolve that council confirm that seal weight being affixed to the following documents, that is the warrants of appointments of David Lou and Yolanda Knox that Simon's just mentioned. So we will set that, Councillor Pearson, thank you. A seconder to that, Councillor Glett, thank you very much, and we resolve that council confirm that seal being affixed to those documents. Thank you, everybody. Gosh, we're talking well, aren't we? So, we'll now have a resolution to go into public excluded. Can I have a move to second, please? So we resolve that council move into the public excluded section at 5 minutes past 2, and thank everyone in attendance and viewers watching online. Can I have a move to second, please? Councillor Glett, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Phelps, thank you very much. So we are moving now into public excluded. The meeting will be adjourned for 2 minutes. We'll now have a meeting to disconnect from Zoom, and also my apologies, but we'll be asking you to now vacate as well as we go into public exclusion.